I'm Kalea Benner from the University of Kentucky's College of Social Work. My research interest focuses on social work students training for substance misuse. One of the things that I knew from my own experiences as a social work practitioner, even with a decade of experience under my belt, it was still hard for me to ask about substance use. And in today's world, when it's prescription drugs, when a doctor has said and given you permission to use that medication, it's even harder. And so whenever I became a social work educator, that was one thing I wanted to help my students do, gain confidence in asking those tough questions, know that they weren't being intrusive, know that it was part of every assessment to be able to understand what substance misuse looked like, what it sounded like. There's all kinds of codes. Oh, I just party a little bit. I get messed up sometimes. Some people are more naive about drug and alcohol use than others, and some are kind of savvy and can, understand what language means. But all of us have to follow up and ask those harder questions. One of the pieces that education has brought to my research and research has brought to my education is that fact that we need to learn that application. We need to learn the skills to actually apply that knowledge, not just the knowledge and assume that then we'll have the skills necessary to apply it. SBIRT stands for Screening, Brief Intervention, and Referral to Treatment. For alcohol, you have to have a certain number before you can screen positive for potential misuse. For drug use and abuse, any amount of illegal drug use is considered a positive screen, whereas for prescribed medication, it's if they used it whenever it hasn't been for the situation prescribed in. So the screening part is really based upon the medical model. The brief intervention and referral to treatment is based on motivational interviewing. It's really a great intro for students because the theory and the model helps them set boundaries. I'm not responsible for you, you're responsible for you. So how can you and I work together to identify what, would maybe help you change? There's a readiness ruler. It's fairly common. Scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to maybe think about changing those behaviors related to drug and alcohol use? And then people pick a number. If you picked 4 and you told me you were at 4, I would praise that. But then you're thinking probably that, well, I picked a low number, why is she acting like that's a good thing? So then I would explain that because you're at a 4, that means there's some thought there, right? Tell me about those thoughts. What would be better? What would maybe look different for you? It's a concrete tool for students to have. A nurse can use this. In fact, we have an SBIRT grant in the College of Nursing here as well. So a physician can use that. So it's really designed to be interdisciplinary. So it provides all health providers with that same tool to use. People who want help, maybe don't even know that they want help. What they do is they go to their doctor because they haven't been feeling well. They've been having stomach aches or headaches or some kind of physical ailment. And so typically it's those patients that we screen then that we can identify we need to start this process with. The great news about this too is that insurance, including Medicaid, is now starting to pay for that screening process because in the past physicians, had a huge barrier. I get X amount of time. My patient has these complaints. I don't know if they're related to substance abuse or not, and I don't have any time to find out. Now that they're getting funded for it, they can spend that time to actually find out. Then if a person does screen positive, they can actually be handed off to a social worker then to help deal with some of those other issues. Our Department of Family and Community Medicine has done 2 pilot screenings so far in which they screen everybody who comes in. Because Kentucky, as you know, has a high rate of drug and alcohol use, and if that's our point of access, then we need to take full advantage. So the doctor's office is a great first point of contact. And I really love UK because it's a Research One Institute and because it's a land-grant institute, it feels that obligation to every person in this Commonwealth. And so it's preparing practitioners to help people across the Commonwealth, and I wanted to be a part of that. There's tremendous infrastructure here for undergraduates to do research, and I love that. That's a really fun piece of the research project too, is extending that education beyond the classroom to extend actually knowledge and awareness of their world and where they're going to go as a future practitioner, whatever role that might be. Because today's world is not, I do my job, you do yours. It's more about how can we do our jobs together to collectively be more effective. Any job ultimately should serve people. I think this generation gets that, which is kind of fun.